Hello, welcome. Welcome to another episode of Build with the CEO. My name is Trevor. I'm your resident CEO, and I got the old school Coach Catalyst hat on today. So we're feeling a little spicy today. And today actually kicks off a new theme for us, a new monthly theme. It is the beginning of April. And this is a great time to start talking about front end offers, right? You may call it low barrier offers. We're going to call it front end offers for the month. And we'll talk about why and what all that is throughout this episode. But let's be honest, most coaches really have two offerings, right? They have free, which is their content, or they have their main program, right? Which costs $300, $400, $500 a month. And it solves a very real problem. But the vast majority of clients, especially people that are a little bit colder, right? They don't necessarily know, like, and trust you yet. They're not ready to make that jump to your full coaching program. So that is where this gap happens, right? This gap in the middle. And that's what we're going to talk about. That's where we're going to help you figure out a solid front end offer that you can put in this gap. And what goes over every gap? A bridge. Okay. We're going to teach you how to build a bridge to take that client from, hey, I kind of resonate with this person, to I want to work with you in a full coaching relationship. Because sometimes it's too big to go from, hey, I'm just consuming your content, I think I'm interested, I maybe hit your site, to sign up for my program. Sometimes we need a little bit of this, a little bit of nurturing, a little bit of a bridge, a way for you to kind of display your expertise, show how you can help this person, and then move them into your coaching program. That's what we're going to talk about. But front end offers, they get used really loosely. Um, and a lot of coaches don't have them, but I really want to first kind of like define this thing on what we're calling a front end offer, because like I think context language is really important, that we're all on the same page, right? And so there's two pieces here. We have the free piece, which is you providing content, and most coaches do education based content because they love it. They love educating, they love helping people. They might be doing in-person talks, they might be doing socials, they might have an email newsletter. All of this is kind of like education based content where we're helping people, helping our followers be more successful. And content is really free. Content is everywhere, right? You can learn anything in the world. It is all free on the internet, right? So, like, we're not charging for content, right? What people are purchasing typically is accountability and is execution. So they know what they need to do, but they're not executing on it. And that's where you come in as a coach. Now, most coaches, they have this free, right? We talked about, but then they just have like the paid version. So let me give you the example of like a gym, right? Because everybody knows a gym, right? What if you went to sign up for a gym and they had like, oh, here, you can have, um, we can do the free tour, we can give you some information, or we have like an annual membership. What if those were like the two options? Right? Like, you're just going to lose a lot of people, right? Because I maybe want to try it. Like, I don't know if this is the right place for me, yada, yada, yada. And so we can kind of insert a little bit of a front end offer there so that um, people have that on ramp. And bridge. I'm going to use the term bridge a lot throughout this because I think really bridge is the right term on how we want to be thinking about this gap that is between, hey, someone is interested in what we're doing, they're consuming maybe some of our free stuff, and signing up for our full-on coaching program is a little bit too big of a jump. And so we need a bridge to move them closer to that. And so the reason why people may not be buying the main program is they need that bridge. And if we don't have that piece in our arsenal, right, we're going to lose a lot of people. And I know a number of coaches, and hopefully I'll be able to bring on one of them throughout this month to talk about what they've been doing. And I know one coach in particular that has really built her business around front end offers. And the right front end offer, right? The right front end offer is is magical because it takes those people that are, kind of interested, and gets them into the coaching program, right? So, all right. So what is a front end offer? So it is not free. Front end offers aren't free, right? Something free would be like a lead magnet, and you're really not looking for free. And a front end offer also isn't like a free discovery call. Okay, that's not what this is. Yeah, free calls are great, but they're kind of like what we call like a pre-offer, right? They're not the actual offer. Free offers or front end offers are not a discount on your main program. Like what that does is it just trains your audience to wait for sales, right? So we don't want to be discounting. We always want to find ways to add value. And then it's also not like a short $7. Some would call it a tripwire. It's a terrible term. Welcome, Matt. I've heard other people say, which is a little bit better. But it's not this kind of like $7 on a funnel type of thing, right? That's a completely different strategy for a completely different business, right? So a front end offer is a paid, low commitment entry point that delivers a real result in a short window. So I want to read that for you one more time. A front end offer is a paid, low commitment, right? And it's usually low time commitment, right? Doesn't necessarily mean commitment to the program, but low time commitment, and it's an entry point that delivers a real result. That's a big piece there. It delivers a real result in a short window, right? And makes a case for working with you long term, right? And it gives someone a taste of what working with you long term feels and looks like, right? That's what we're defining a front end offer. It's affordable enough for like that skeptical person that's maybe interested, but they don't need to necessarily agonize over the price, right? It's specific enough that they know exactly what they're getting and what they're going to walk away with. And then finally, it's short enough. So it's days or weeks, it's not necessarily months. And here's the thing, like there's lots of variations. Everyone's going to ask for like what's there is no perfect like time frame. I've seen people successful with 5 days. I've seen people successful with 14 days, 21 days, 28 days, right? That's what we're considering to be this front end offer. 12 weeks long is not a front end offer, right? So remember, this isn't a discounted version of your main program. It's a low commitment entry point that delivers a real result in a short window. Okay. So here's kind of a big mindset shift for you. The front end offer really isn't about making money, right? Challenges are a front end offer. And we shouldn't thinking about it's nice to make money from challenges, but the goal is not to make money from challenges. The goal is to get as many people into that challenge as possible so that I can move them into my main coaching program. Because like let's be honest, you're not solving their problem in those 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 21 days, 7 days, whatever it may be. Not solving the whole piece of the problem. You're solving a portion of it. You're helping them kind of move forward, right? But you're not solving their entire program. All right. So once we kind of understand what the offer is, remember the offer is paid. Paid. This isn't free. It's a low time commitment, right? Entry point that delivers a specific result. Specific result is important because we want people to know what am I going to get out of this? Why should I do it? Right. And the window is typically shorter. Think days and weeks, not months. Okay. So that's what we're talking about here with a front end offer. Okay. It's not free. Okay. It's not a discovery call. It's not a lead magnet. Okay. This is paid. And this is the bridge to your main program. And I'm going to give you a few different ways to be able to do this here in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about the 3 jobs of a front end offer. Okay. So, job number 1 of a front end offer is it buys trust. Okay. Not just time. Free content is great. It shows people that you're an expert. It does authority building. It makes sure that people know that you're not a wacko, right? And it gets people to start resonating with who you are. But a front end offer starts to buy trust because now you're actually starting to coach that person and solve a real problem for that person. So they're figuring out what it's like to work with you as a coach. What is your personality like? What is your secret sauce? Why are you different? Right? And because they give you money, that changes the relationship. There is buy-in on their end. They have given you value in the form of money. And now they have a level of buy-in to the program. That's why any sort of monetary input right away actually helps the person get better results, right? How many of you have done something free for a family member or a friend? And how did that go? Not well, right? It never goes well because people don't value free. So we're charging for this, and we have to be charging in relation to what our coaching program is priced at. So I gave you the example at the beginning of like the quote unquote tripwire, like $7, right? All right. Is someone that buys something for $7 going to be the same person that buys something for 500? Probably not, especially if it's a coaching program, right? And so we want to make sure that we're creating alignment between our front end offer and our core offer. Okay. So the next one is the job of your front end offer is to filter for real buyers, because price, even at a smaller than your normal coaching offer price, is a filter, right? The person who pays 97 bucks for a jump start or whatever we want to call it does not equal to the person who just downloaded your free PDF, right? On 5 ways to get lean or whatever that may be, right? So it's a filter. So you want to be filtering people out of your audience into, hey, who's kind of interested in what I'm doing and who just wants to consume content, right? It preserves client quality, right? And it also helps just save you energy. Okay. So job number one, front end offer builds trust. Job number two is it filters for your real buyers and the people that are going to be interested before you're investing massive amounts of time and energy in these people. Okay. And then job number three is it actually creates an on ramp to your main program. So the person that goes through your front end offer is going to be a better client for your main program, because you've gotten a lot of like logistics out of the way, right? It creates this nice on ramp. Um, and the question we want people to be asking at the end of our front end offer is, what's next? How do we keep going? And there's ways that you can structure your front end offer that we're going to talk about in this series throughout this month to get people to start asking that question. There are ways that you can set it up. There's ways that you can talk about the language that you use in your front end offer to make people feel like this is just the beginning of their journey and it's not finite. That's probably the biggest mistake I see a lot of coaches make is their front end offer is too disconnected from their main offer. They're almost like two separate things, almost like two offers, just one cheaper and one more expensive. Right? We want these to be synergistic. You want it to be like an on-ramp, a bridge into your main offer, right? The best front end offers solve a problem that creates a new problem that is solved by your main program. Okay. It's a little bit more complicated and there's a little bit more nuance there. We want someone to get a result in our front end offer, but getting that result should create some new problems because that's like anybody's journey, right? You're going to solve one, but then by solving that thing, you see a whole host of other things that you need to solve. And that's where the main program comes into play. I'm going to pop open. I see a little chat bubble going on here. So I'm just going to pop that guy open just so that I can kind of see that. Okay, cool. Carrie asked, does Coach Catalyst have any templates for a front end offer built out? So inside of Coach Catalyst, we have a number of programs that could operate as a front end offer, like the shorter version of your main one. And I'll talk about those when we get into like actual formats of a front end offer that I think work really, really well. But all of this should be working backwards, right? Everybody needs to have a core program, a main program. What is the problem that you solve? What is the method in which you solve that problem, right? And for who are you solving it? That's the core. That's the core thing, right? And so it's like, okay, what little thing can we add onto the front of that on ramps someone, that bridges someone into our main core program? So that actually kind of leads us nicely into the next piece of like, what are some formats that work really, really well with a front end offer? So I've got 4 formats for you today that coaches that you can actually use, right? So we're gonna kind of go through these. I'm gonna give you the menu. We're not gonna go into major depth with these because we'll kind of cover them throughout this month, but it'll at least get the wheels spinning a little bit on kind of what are the different formats, because you have to find the one that that really fits for you. Okay, so here's four of them. The first one being a challenge. Most people understand this concept. It works really, really well. Challenges are not dead. People love challenges mainly because it's a defined time frame, right? Everybody loves a good challenge. They can go all in for a period of time and they typically see a result in that time frame. So this could be 5 days, it could be 7 days, it could be 14 days. These have a very, 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 very specific focus. Okay. Sugar detox is a really good one, right? We're cutting out sugar, right? Maybe hit 10,000 steps a day if it's more movement based. Maybe we're into lifestyle stuff, so it's building one aspect of a morning routine, right? Or something like that, right? But it's a very, very specific focus. Typically, kind of the first domino in our core program, we can solve in that front end offer. But something short, 5, 7, 14 days, you got to play with it a little bit. It needs to be long enough for someone to be able to get the result that we're talking about. So they feel like they got value out of this, right? But short enough where it's not like its own program in and of itself. Okay. So the second one is like a jumpstart package. So think like 2 to 4 weeks of coaching, but at like a reduced scope, right? This is, I like to think about this as like phase one of your program. And to be honest, I said reduce scope, but I don't actually think that would do a lot of value. And you'd have to do some testing on this one. But we want to think about like phase one of your program. And I'll just kind of speak to how I'm thinking about this right now in some of our own businesses is I'm starting to think about our core offering, core programs as being these like multi-phased programs. And I think someone like Jared Hamilton does this really well with dieting from the inside out. And I know a couple other high level coaches that do this really well. It's a thinking about their program in phases because let's be honest in you helping your person achieve their desired result, right? There's going to be phases, there's going to be focuses for different periods. And I think that lays things out really nicely in the prospect's mind and the client's mind of here's what we're working on, here's what's coming next, here's what's coming after that, and we can see the roadmap on how we get to our end result, right? And when we have phases, right, ultimately that implies that there's something coming next, right, in the next phase of the program. And so if we want to continue advancing towards our goals, we go into the next phase and we can give each phase a name, right? That's part of the greater method, and that just kind of that all layers into someone being able to conceptualize what we're taking them through rather than just like, hey, we're going to give you workouts and nutrition advice. It's like, here's the specific thing about nutrition that we're going to be working on for the next 4 weeks. All right. And then here's the specific thing that we're going to be working on for the following 4 weeks. Right. We just take them through this stuff. So you think about the jumpstart packages, like call it phase 1A of your entire program. Right. So you may just take what your phase one would be like, shrink it down, right? Find a very specific goal that they can accomplish in that time frame, and then there is our front end offer. And I like to say 1A, right? Because maybe it's shorter. Maybe it's just 14 days instead of 28, right? If your phases are 4 weeks long, if your phases are 6 weeks long, maybe it's a 21-day thing, right? And if your program is normally like, let's call it $500 a month, offer it for 149, right? Or offer it for 199, right? And at 14 days or 21 days, yes, it is a little bit of a discount on your normal pricing, but it's not so far away from what our normal one is, right? So we want to think about our jumpstart packages being like phase one. And this is great for coaches who have that kind of long-term offer, right? Price range here is probably that like 97 to 197, depending on kind of what your main offer is. Okay. Another one that's really interesting, and I don't have a lot of experience with this one, but I'll just kind of speak to it because maybe it's interesting for you. It's what we would call like the paid assessment or paid audit. And it's really like a one-time call or a written assessment where you analyze something specific, right? Maybe it's their current training plan, maybe it's their nutritional habits, right? If you're a business coach, their right, their business systems or whatever that may be. But it's like one to one. you get to provide a ton of value. You get to help them create a roadmap for where they want to go. And then it's this one works really, really well for coaches that are really strong in like diagnostics, diagnosing, and kind of setting out the roadmap for people. So a little bit shorter, right? High touch, high perceived value, because it's like kind of that one-to-one map plan, almost kind of like a quote unquote doctor's visit type of thing. You collect the information, you analyze the information, and then you give them the correct roadmap moving forward. And then obviously, hey, if you want to continue to work and adjust this roadmap along the way, like here's what that looks like, right? So that's probably better for that one-to-one coach that's doing a lot of like very individualized coaching. And then the last one here um, is, and really this last one kind of fits in with the Jumpstart package. And so it's kind of like that condensed version of the main offer. And honestly, I would kind of put these two together, where really you have that Jumpstart package, short cycle package. It's kind of all of the same thing. So I would really put those together so that it is this kind of like phase one type of thing. You could kind of say like the Jumpstart is a little bit different, but honestly, I think doing like a phase 1A makes a lot of sense if you do have more of like a phased out program that you would be taking people through. So biggest keys that I want you to take away from front end offers, right? So we'll kind of go back to like how we define that front end offer, right? And our front end offer is really, it's short, right? It's a specific result. We're trying to get a specific result for that client, and it's a bridge into our main offer. Okay, so there needs to be some congruency where we deliver a real result in a short window, and it needs to be paid. Okay, so it needs to be paid, it needs to be short, it needs to deliver a real result, and it needs to be a bridge into our main offer. So that's kind of like your check boxes for your friend offer. Does this bridge into my main offer? Okay. Because we don't want, too many times you see coaches like they're just creating this kind of these like call them front end offers, but really like they're standalones, right? But they're only charging 47.97, 147 for them. And they're not driving enough volume there for them to actually be meaningful. Right? Remember, the goal is not to make a ton of money on our front end offer. The goal is to use the front end offer to move that prospect to a little bit closer. Remember, they're on the bridge. We're trying to get them on the bridge to our main offering. And so, personally, challenges I think are still awesome, but that challenge needs to resonate directly with our main offer. I think the other really interesting one right now is that kind of like 1A version of your core offering, right? What's the condensed version, or what's the phase, like the first half of the phase, right, where they're actually doing your main offer, but just the first part of it, so that you can come in, provide value, provide expertise, and move them into the next one. And then the third one I think that's really interesting is this kind of like paid assessment or audit for that client, where that's more high touch, one-to-one, but because they're paying for it, right, because they're paying for it, they're going to buy in a lot more and higher likelihood of actually executing on it. So hopefully that gives you some insight into kind of how we're defining front end offers, some actual ways to implement front end offers. Like Carrie said, does Coach Catalyst have any templates for front end offers? So we have a plethora of front end offers in there, right? Remember, you can take your main program and make a condensed version of it, but inside the library we have a lot of like 5 and 7 day programs that could work really well for what someone is trying to accomplish, as long as it makes sense. Because remember, this is a bridge into our main program, so there has to be congruency between the different programs. And so, yeah, if you're brick and mortar, challenges still work really well. Challenges are really what built our facilities, and we still run challenges, and they still work really, really well. Sometimes you just have to reframe them a little bit to fit your demographic, but we need front end offers, right? We can't just have free and we can't have our paid program. We need that bridge in between. Some people will move from free to paid, and those are usually people that have done a ton of research. They're a referral. They already know, like, and trust you. But other people are going to need that kind of like short term, lower commitment type of program in order to um, feel confident in working with you as a coach. So we need to find ways to bridge, and that way we're going to get more people into our main offer. So if you have questions with that, definitely tag me inside of Facebook. Inside of the group is usually the best place to get a hold of me if you do have questions or things that we want to talk about. Hopefully you got some value out of this and are starting to think about your front end offers a little bit differently. But this is an aspect of our business that we want you to have, right? That we want you to have so that you can continue to grow as a coach. So, all right, cool. Well, thanks for hanging out on this Tuesday. We're here every Tuesday. Well, I'm here every Tuesday at noon. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Keep changing lives. We'll see you later. Bye.